For decades, Eric Clapton has been treated as untouchable. A guitar god. A pioneer. A man whose influence shaped generations. But even legends have opinions they keep buried. And for years, one name quietly lingered in the background of Clapton's world: Chris Rea. Not as a rival. Not as a collaborator. But as a presence that never quite fit the story people wanted to tell. Until now. Two guitarists. Two very different paths. On paper, Eric Clapton and Chris Rea should have been allies. Both British. Both blues-rooted. Both deeply emotional players. Yet their careers couldn't have unfolded more differently. Clapton chased reinvention, from Cream to Blind Faith, Derek and the Dominoes, and finally a solo career built on refinement and legacy. Chris Rea, on the other hand, stayed stubbornly himself: gravelly voice, slide guitar soaked in melancholy, songs about roads, distance, and quiet regret. One became a global institution. The other became a cult devotion. And that difference mattered. The silence was the first clue. For years, fans noticed something strange. Clapton spoke openly about B.B. King. Praised Freddie King. Revered Robert Johnson. But when Chris Rea's name came up, Clapton didn't attack him. He didn't praise him either. He avoided him. In the world of musicians, silence often speaks louder than criticism. What Clapton finally admitted. In later interviews, when pressed about modern blues and British successors, Clapton finally addressed the elephant in the room. He acknowledged that Chris Rea was doing something real, something most blues musicians weren't brave enough to attempt. But then came the uncomfortable truth. Clapton suggested that Rea wasn't interested in preserving blues tradition, he was rewriting it. That wasn't meant as praise. He chose mood over mastery. Clapton hinted that Chris Rea's success wasn't built on technical brilliance, but on atmosphere. On feeling. On repetition. On emotional weight. To Clapton, a perfectionist shaped by discipline and lineage, that approach felt dangerous. Rea wasn't playing blues correctly. He was making it accessible. Digestible. Personal. And in Clapton's world, that crossed an invisible line. Why this bothered Clapton more than he admitted. Eric Clapton spent his life earning legitimacy. Studying the roots. Respecting the elders. Carrying the torch carefully. Chris Rea didn't ask permission. He blended blues with soft rock. He leaned into commercial success without apology. He let emotion outweigh pedigree. And audiences responded. That shook something. The uncomfortable comparison. At their peaks, Clapton was revered. Chris Rea was loved. Rea sold millions of records without critical worship. He filled arenas without chasing guitar hero mythology. He connected quietly, deeply, with everyday listeners. Clapton noticed. He didn't resent Rea personally. He resented what Rea represented. A version of blues that didn't require suffering, purity tests, or reverence. That's not the blues I came from. Clapton later admitted that Chris Rea's music made him uneasy because it proved something Clapton didn't want to believe. That blues could evolve without permission. That audiences didn't need complexity to feel authenticity. That mood could matter more than mastery. For a man who spent decades chasing the right way to play blues, this realization was deeply unsettling. Chris Rea's silent response. Chris Rea never fired back. He never criticized Clapton. Never defended himself. Never explained his approach. He just kept making records. After surviving pancreatic cancer, losing years of his career, and nearly his life, Rea doubled down on what he always did: honesty. No polish. No explanations. No apologies. And that quiet confidence may have been the most shocking part of all. What Clapton eventually respected. In later reflections, Clapton softened. He admitted that Chris Rea's music endured in a way few expected. That his songs aged well. That listeners returned to them not for flash, but for comfort. Clapton didn't say he was wrong. But he acknowledged that Rea had found a truth Clapton himself struggled to hold onto. Simplicity. The truth no one expected. This wasn't a feud. It wasn't jealousy. It wasn't hatred. It was something far more uncomfortable. Eric Clapton saw in Chris Rea a reminder that there is no single authority on authenticity. And for a man who carried the weight of being called God, that realization was quietly shocking. Today, Clapton is often criticized for being rigid. Chris Rea is celebrated for being human. Clapton protected tradition. Rea followed feeling. Both were honest. Both were real. But only one proved that you don't need approval to make music that lasts. Not that Eric Clapton doubted Chris Rea, but that, deep down, he understood him. And that understanding forced Clapton to confront a question every legend eventually faces. Is legacy built on perfection or connection?